following is a presentation of Epic eSports Radio Network. Live from Oregon, broadcasting around the world, you're listening to the Coach's Corner Radio Show. Sit back as we provide in-depth analysis covering all your favorite sports. Football, baseball, soccer. There's not a sport that we don't cover. So step up to the plate. Get ready for a hit. We're putting on a show, and Coach Craven's hosting it. So without further ado, we proudly present to you your host, Coach Brian Craven.
Welcome to Coach's Corner, brought to you by Epic eSports. I'm your host, Brian Craven. Right off the bat, I want to ask you, if you are watching this on YouTube, I want to ask you to consider subscribing, liking the video, and most of all, sharing it with anyone you think might be interested. For those of you involved in the SFL, you might not know, we had a little scuffle over pings in the league content channel. Some folks just can't manage the notifications that well, so we're limited. And the results of that have been that my show numbers have dropped a little bit. So if you can just help us out, let people know it's out there, and subscribe, hit that notification button, and you'll get all our stuff. We've got a lot of good stuff coming from Epic eSports. After these shows are released, my shows will still be available on Anchor, through Spotify, and all those other platforms. But Epic's doing the heavy lifting to help me out. I want to help them out as well. Got a great show for you today. Got a nice interview with Chad Roland, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So grab a drink, settle in, and have fun. Got a great interview for you today. I have Chad Roland, the newly appointed GM, correct? Yes, GM. Correct. For the London Knights. Sending shockwaves through the SFL. Chad, glad to have you. First time we've had you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm good, Coach. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I'd be lying if I said I was completely recovered from that heartbreaking result over the weekend, but, you know, that's part of sports. I've had that in air quotes real life, and now I've had it more than once here. So,
yeah, that was a tough game for both sides. I mean, it was great to watch. Actually, all the games were great to watch this past weekend.
They were. As a fan, it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend for football, definitely, for simulation football. And it's part of the deal. You got to get in the end zone. You got to finish. And I just had a feeling every time we didn't get a touchdown, I thought, we might regret that later. Sure enough. So. Yeah. But I tell you, though, I had to step away from the Vancouver one for a little bit. And when I left, it was, 23-. I mean, it looked like Atlanta was going to win that thing. And I came back, and I'm sitting here going, my eyes, I'm rubbing my eyes, going, what the heck is wrong with my eyes? Couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be lying if I was right there with you. I was actually cheering for Atlanta in that one because I thought they were going to do it. And, you know, kudos to Vancouver. They came back, even though Pepper threw 5 picks. But, you know, they came back and, you know, got the win. So they move on.
Yeah. Well, and I think they proved what I said as the Vancouver volume offense. I mean, they're just going to, you keep giving them opportunities, they're just going to keep taking their shots, and you know, it's almost a damn the torpedoes approach, and it works for them more often than not. So,
yeah, I actually listened to that when you talked about it. You nailed it perfectly on the head. Was, you know, they're a volume type of offense. The more opportunities you give them, the more they're going to score. And you know, Atlanta has the back to kind of hold that time of possession, which is BDG. But you know, they just didn't do that in the end. Dynasty throws 5 picks, but he's a rookie. It happens. But you know, like I said, in the end, I mean, Vancouver came out on top.
Yeah, they did. And they made a couple of interesting moves. A couple defensive moves that I didn't see a lot from Andy last season. And he rolled the dice on a couple things that paid off. They got a pick on one of those swing passes. That was a big deal. So, but hey, kudos, and we're going to get some good football next week, I think. And the playoffs are always fun.
Yeah. Playoff time. Yeah. Playoff time in the SFL is the best for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Did you get a chance to watch any of the minors?
I did. I actually checked out the game that I was really interested in was the Memphis River or the Red Run. Is it River Runners? Yeah, Memphis River Runners and Memphis and Tacoma. Two new franchises. As I left the SFL, I had a franchise in Lexington, but that went away. But my quarterback for Lexington was OJ Bruin. He was actually now the starting quarterback for Memphis, so I wanted to check him out. And then be able to really just check out all these rookies. Now that I'm in this role as a GM, I want to be able to get some tape on these guys and see, who's active during the game chat, and then compare it to who's active in the community and Discord and start putting a draft board together.
Right. Well, that's a good segue into my next question. As the GM, I keep telling my guys, I did this last season with San Jose. I'm doing it again with San Jose. And it's something that I almost call them kids. It's funny because they're not all kids, but
true.
I'm so used to coaching high school kids. I've been chatting with a couple of them. They're like, man, I'm doing terrible, And I told them, I said, that's not going to hurt their draft stock. People are going to be looking how involved you are. They're going to be looking at your build. Nobody wants a broken build that they've got to fix. But ultimately, it's what you're doing on the minor league. And it's weird to say. Some people might not like hearing this. It doesn't matter what you do in the minors. If you've got value, you're getting drafted. What are you as a GM looking at?
For me, that's a good question. And for any of the rookies that are listening out there, take notes. I may do things a little differently than most, but what I'm looking for is people that will be committed to their team first. Guys are going to be active in the chat. Guys are going to be active in the community. Those are huge pluses. Yeah, you may get, if you're a running back and you get 2.3 yards a carry, I don't care. We can build you up. We can make you a good player, but you can't create somebody that is going to be a good locker room fit. They just have to naturally have that instinct. So for me, I'm always looking for great locker room guys. I interview almost, all the rookies that I can. Last year when I was a GM in Baltimore, I think I did over 70, 80 interviews for just one pick, to be honest. Wow. And it wasn't even and it wasn't even guys that I was going to pick. It was just, I wanted to get to know these rookies. It was why I wanted to be a head coach in the SFLM, was so I could talk to more of these guys and get good insight on this. And, but that's what we're looking for is, as long as you're active and you reach out and let these teams know that, hey, I'm interested in coming playing for you. I want to be a London Knight, for example, then that just goes a long way, to be honest.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's what I've been telling them. And you can tell there's a few guys that got into the league that have come back around to me and said, Coach, I know you said this, but now it makes sense. They kind of got looked over. They had great, air quote, great minor league season. Looked like a high value guy. Ended up going late or not at all because they just weren't talking that much.
Yeah, exactly. You had guys that were, really had a decent build. That could have been high value picks, but in the end of the day, when you don't have the attitude and whatever to be a great teammate, then it just knocks you down on the board. We all see that happen all the time. Yeah.
Well, and it may not be a key point. I think it may not even be that you have a bad attitude, but how are they supposed to know if you're not engaged?
True.
So that's certainly a factor. So you mentioned something about people wanting to come to London, and that made me think: how much are you seeing your approach being any different? Because let's be honest, this is a rebuild. You're kind of playing from behind almost with London, based on what we've seen in the past. I'm trying to be nice, but also factual.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
So Yeah, I mean, just prestige-wise, it probably is an easier sell. Hey, I'm with Baltimore, or has been in the past. I'm with Baltimore. We're looking at you, compared to I'm with London. We're looking at you. Are you seeing? And it's early in the process. Do you think your approach is going to change at all, being part of London as opposed to Baltimore?
Not really. For when I was announced that I was going to be the GM and Tanner actually got bumped up to director of football operations, I actually had some guys reach out and say, hey, now that you're back and you're with London and I want to come to you guys and play. So we are still having some conversations with some people, but really what it is I don't want to call it a rebuild. This is more like a retool. It's a retool process. Because really, here's the thing is that we have such a great staff in London. I mean, really. I mean, we have, Tanner being the director of football operations. You got myself. You got Jeff Gagne, who's fantastic. You got Benji Matson, who's fantastic. Dustin Zeck is fantastic. Angus McLean, team president. All these guys that are on the staff. This is one of the reasons I wanted to come to London. I mean, London, in my mind, was the top job for me. And, and now, even just chatting with these guys since I've been here, I mean, these are all guys that are dedicated to the London Knights. And that's exactly what I want to see. People that are going to be dedicated to the cause and want to see this franchise win. And, even before I signed up, I was talking to Liam. And even Liam was like, I just want to win. And, and that's why he's taking kind of a backseat approach and letting all of us kind of take over the car, you know what I'm saying? And, we're really excited and we've been telling him our plan and he's really excited about it. So London football is going to be a lot different than people think.
That's awesome. I think the league's better off with a lot of stronger teams rather than being top heavy.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it. I mean, because, I had some teams that had reached out to me, about the possibility of coming in for season 16, and I wasn't really too sure. There were some teams that already had established front offices, which, to me, that wasn't really what I was looking for. And there was a couple other teams that, could have used a hand, but really, like I said, the opportunity to be able to work with Tanner, because me and Tanner developed such a great friendship, through DMs and other stuff like that. And then once I got in and I was like, okay, now I get to work with Jeff Gagne and now I get to work with Benji and Dustin and these guys, like, oh, okay, this is going to be fun.
I like those guys.
And they're such great guys. And, it just made that fuel, that fire even just more, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I wish it was season 16 now. I wish we were ready to go. I mean, obviously we're still in the playoffs, but right.
I hear you.
Yeah, but I'm pumped up and ready to go for it for sure.
Okay. So are you? I know it's early again. Don't want to make you give anything away. Are you playing? Is Dustin gonna? He did the offense last season, right?
Yeah. So Dustin was the offensive coordinator, and then Tanner was a defensive coordinator last season.
Okay. Do you think those roles are going to come? Well, Tanner. Maybe not, because of where you moved into, or is he going to keep coaching?
We're still working on the logistics of that.
Okay.
We're still in the discussions. Obviously Liam, like I said, is taking a back step from all football operations, which includes head coach. So we're actually in the discussions of maybe even getting a head coach. And then from there, maybe and these guys would be able to keep the jobs that they have and they'd be able to just work together as a unit. It's kind of like when me and Tanner say, I mean, he's football operations and I'm GM, but really we're kind of 1A and 1B. And we're both happy and excited about that. And that's kind of the way we could take with these coaches and scouts is that, we want a full front attack on being able to change not only the culture, but change the product that's on the field for the London Knights. And I think if we do get an experienced head coach in here, or even, somebody from the minors that is looking for a head coaching opportunity, then, and they fit in our system and they fit with our group, then I think that London, like I said, is going to do some damage next season.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Well, and I meant to say earlier, I mean, we were talking about Tanner in our off-season plan. You got a good one. We like him quite a bit. And so I think really good spot with him. As
Yeah,
far as
and
me.
and that's the thing too, is with Tanner. I mean, even I was talking to him before I left about trying to maybe even come to Baltimore. Because I was like, I even told, I think I remember telling him this, but I was like, I'll even take a back seat a little bit, and me and you can kind of be GM, assistant GM or whatever, and then we'll go from there. But at the end of the day, when me and him finally kind of talked about London, he was like, I really want to stay with these guys. They want to win here, and even just after talking to him and just hearing the passion that he had for the London Knights, I'm like, dude, I'm sold. Like, let's go.
Is that what, you guys were just chatting. Is that what got you thinking about coming back? Was just listening to that, or did those conversations dovetail, if you will? I mean, was he talking to you about it and then sold you on it, or did he sell you on it?
Talked, yeah, we had talked back and forth for a little bit. And some other teams, like I said, had come in, and I had kind of put out some feelers a little bit in a different area about, maybe I do want to come back. I had the itch. I missed being around, all the guys in the SFL. I missed being on Axis Live, even though it's Dave and he's a diva. You've got to deal with his diva ways. You know that better than anybody.
I feel your pain.
But, and I was like, and like I said, I really had the itch. And like I said, if I did come back, I knew that Baltimore was in good hands with TJ. And first of all, that's a fantastic franchise. It's a great organization. TJ has done such a fantastic job. And I learned so much from that guy. It's not even funny. And so I was like, I want to kind of blaze my own path and be able to have a different opportunity. And, like I said, me and Tanner talked about working together before. And then once it popped up and he was like, hey, Liam, wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And then it just kind of escalated from there. Like it just took off like a cannon. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. What made you step away for a little bit?
I had to get some clarity. Things were going on in the SFL that I wasn't a fan of. I think, we all know what that stuff was.
Yeah.
We could get into that if you want, doesn't matter. But, plus there were some other things that was going on, with work and stuff like that. And then, of course, the BHB, which we won't get into, but the BHB was going, and I kind of had to get back into that a little bit. So I decided to take a little step back. And I thought, you know what? I was like, I want to see some changes made. And, I want to see this done before I rejoin the SFL. And there have been some people that I've closely talked to. I think you were one of them as well, that, if these changes are made, then I'll come back. And, and I had kind of gotten a feeling from other people around the SFL that, okay, these changes are going to happen. And so that was, I was like, okay, maybe it is time for me to come back. But then, like I said, it was just being able to be in the locker room, talking to these players, doing rookie evaluations, doing all the stuff that a GM does. I just miss doing it. So I was just like, okay, it's time to come back.
And you're not bringing back your player, are you? Or are you?
That's not the plan right now. But it is a last option.
Okay. You got it.
So he could, so I could make my return to the field. But it wasn't something that was necessarily had to be done.
I figured. I mean, I know that the front office stuff is kind of your jam, so to speak. So
yeah.
Truth be told, I hadn't even thought about it until I was just putting down bullet points to cover for today. Like, wait a minute, is he bringing this guy back or not? Because I realized you could. You mentioned a couple of guys, Zach, for example, that key guys. You got some other guys that you would like to see keep, or if you want to keep that on the down low, that's fine. But if there's anybody, can you tell us about them? Anybody else?
As far as keeping in London?
Yeah.
I mean, the guys that we have that have committed to the franchise are guys that I wanted to keep.
Okay.
We did have to make a cut this past week with a player, and that didn't go as smooth as I thought it would. But at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for the London Knights, and that was a decision we made. And I know that, like, for example, it's been declared already by him, but like Fox is testing free agency, which is fine, and he came to me and told me that, and I said that's cool, like good luck. The door is cracked for you. We can always have that conversation down the road. So, and he understands that perfectly. So, but the rest of the guys that are committed, that are going to be in a Knights uniform next season, are the guys I wanted to keep, because like I said, I think what they've done so far is really good. Like the players that they have, and I think it just comes down to an element to two is progressions, and then maybe the coaching scheme and trying to change things up. I think if we get those things solved, like I said, this is not going to be your normal past 3, 4, 5 seasons London Knights. This is going to be a totally different Knights team that's hungry and ready to win.
Cool. Okay, that's awesome. I do remember thinking last season, or not last season, during the draft, I remember thinking, with one notable exception, just going to put it out there, that y'all had a great draft. I know you weren't part of that, but I thought, okay, London, Tanner doing a good job. There's some great people there. You see the fruits of it, right? Because you're talking about Benji, you're talking about Dustin, Fox.
Yeah.
And I don't begrudge the guy for saying, I kind of like to look at free agency. I'm not sure. I get that. It's a little bit of for the team, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'd really love to know. But I get a guy just kind of put that out there. But all of that aside, whether he stays or goes, it was a good draft for London.
Yes.
And so if you can get that continuity.
Yes, getting Benji with your first pick, and then being able to get guys like Dustin, getting a guy like Jeff Gagne, who, by the way, I believe had over 100 solo tackles this season. A lot of people talk about Brody Gulch, and that's fair, because Brody Gulch has been just nothing short of phenomenal. But Gagne's got to get a little love on that rookie love too, for the defensive side of the ball, really.
He had a great season.
He had a great season, fantastic season. So his build is fantastic, and that's something that we're going to be looking to progress and make him better, and make him a cornerstone of our defense. I mean, that's what we want, is to have him as to be the cornerstone of the defense. And we have other guys that are in there as well. Bo Martin Jr. is another guy that's going to be fantastic for us.
I like Bo.
I love Bo. Watching, because in the time between the first conversation I have with Liam and the second conversation I have with Liam and Tanner, I actually was able to watch all 12 games of the London Knights. Like actually go back and consecutively watch them over and over and over and over again, and take notes down. This is a sneaky good team. I know a lot of people may think differently of that, but really this is a sneaky good team, and it's one of the other reasons why I jumped all over this opportunity to come to London. And with, like I said, with the progression changes that we're planning on making, there could be some key free agents that come in and help us out. And then also with, the coaching scheme changes possibly. Like I said, this is not going to be your same London Knights as you've seen before.
Well, yeah, I think you guys ought to be in places that you might not have been in the past.
Exactly.
And I watched all of your games, and there were a lot of games there where it's just the randomness of the whole thing. Ball bounces this way, and that game is yours. And that's sort of that's actually video game or real life. That's almost a football truism. That sometimes the bounces just don't go your way, and sometimes the whole string of bounces don't go your way. You guys
exactly
had a lot of bad bounces.
Yes, they did have a lot of bad bounces this past season. I mean, we won 2 games, but really I could have seen them easily winning 4 or 5, and maybe even more than that, depending on the bounces. But there was just some bad bounces, and then, once you get that one bad bounce, as a coach, all of a sudden it just seems like it just opens up, and now all of a sudden you're down 21 or whatever. But in a lot of the games, you could tell that they were just fighting, to try to claw their way back in. But, sometimes they just had a deficit that was too large. But like I said, I think we have a great core, obviously being led by our quarterback, Angus McLean. Robert Merrill is a guy that I would love to see get more action next season. The wide receiver core, I think, if Fox does come back or not come back, I think we can improve there too. And then obviously, with Benji leading the way with the tight end group, It's going to be a scary offense. I think if we put the scheme correctly, I think this could be an offense that can really put up some points. And then going with the defensive side of the ball, I mean, you have that great defensive line led by William Davidson and Dean Sammy, and so then you get into the linebacking core with Jeff Gagne anchoring that, and then the secondary. We all know about the secondary, Jack Russell and all these guys. Like I said, this team has got some really good foundations in place. It's just either we got to change the progressions, like I said, or maybe we bring in a key free agent that could help us out as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I really think for London keeping most of your people, but that hasn't happened on a regular basis.
Exactly. That's the other thing is we have 20 on a roster, right? So we've only lost 3.
Yeah.
So and that's if Fox doesn't come back. So
yeah,
usually you see like 6 or 7 or 8 even. It's all and like I said, these guys. I've reached out and talked to almost all these guys. There's a couple I may have not got a chance to talk to yet, but all these players that are on this night team are dedicated. That's what I love to see. And I tell them all the time. Like I tell them this all the time. Like I want to see night blood come from you. I want to see you leave London Knight, and they all like, yeah, we do. We're ready for next season. We want to turn things around. We're ready to do whatever we need to do. So it's really good to hear that from all these guys.
Yeah, I'll bet. I know we're at Lone Star. We're not keeping everybody. Some people are moving on, but we're keeping most. And it's such a relief, that they don't know I'm here. So I'm sure that especially considering London's history.
Yeah, and that's always a key because that's coming from Baltimore. That's what I always was used to was, there was always a story of, nobody ever leaves Baltimore.
Yeah.
Even though I think, I left, but there was a couple other guys that left this season too. But, that's what I want to bring that's what I want to bring to London is that reputation of, once you're in London, you want to stay because of the culture, because of the guys that are in the front office and the coaching staff. I want to play for these guys. I want to buy the merchandise. I want to do all that stuff and have London Knights all over the place. That's the goal that we have. And I think with the people that we have in place, I think we're going to get that done for sure.
Yeah. I like that. I like the idea of seeing that. You got a lot of guys on, or you include, and so I want to see all of that work for you. And like I say, I mean, I'm not really rooting against anybody. There are a couple teams that I'm rooting against pretty much every time. But and if they play each other, I want them both to lose. Unfortunately, I never get that. But
one of them, I think, plays Louisiana this weekend.
I'm not going to root against. I'm not going to root against Vancouver, but I'm probably going to root against Florida every time they play somebody.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm just there. And probably Denver. I'm probably going to root against Denver. I can't tell you why exactly, but Denver. And I'm putting that out there. And guess what? They're playing each other too. So I'm going to lose. Let's move on to the league in general, as a whole, and talk about. Let's engage in some wild speculation. So we're coming up on that. We're coming up on the silly season where some rules get changed, and I say silly season. It's necessary, but what are some things you'd like to see, whether they're realistic or not? What are some things you'd like to see happen in the off season? Maybe some rule changes. Maybe some. If you want to talk about expansion, that's okay. Roster expansion, anything of that nature. What's some things you'd like that you'd like to see? For example, I'd like to see the. I'll give you a direct example. When Dazzle left, I didn't want to see just clone somebody else, and it's not just Dazzle. It's not because of Dazzle. It's because it's everywhere. I want to see that rule changed. I think that's an avenue for shenanigans and corruption, and I'd love to see that rule change. I may never get that. I get it. Is there anything like that you've been carrying around?
Let me get my Walmart list out. Let me get my list out that's the size of a CVS receipt. No, I mean that is for sure. I would love to see that rule go away. To where, like for example, Mike Dazzle left and Jack Wigmore, bless that guy. He does so much behind the scenes for Baltimore.
Oh yeah.
I mean he's learning so much. He's going to be a great head coach. I mean right now he's an associate head coach. But if he ever gets an opportunity to run an organization like head coaching wise, I think he'd be phenomenal. But that is one thing I would change is being able to basically clone somebody in there that hasn't been there that long. It gives a bad opportunity, especially for the rookies that are in the SFLM.
Right.
Like for example, I would love to see maybe even OJ Bruin get that spot as a quarterback for Baltimore. Or what's his name? Colin Pierce, I think is his name, right?
Oh yeah, the San Jose. Yeah.
The San Jose. Good guy. Love to see, somebody like that get an opportunity and be able to fill that void, but that rule's got to go in my mind. Another thing that I know that people have always kind of talked about, and with the whole, Chicago and Shan thing, an identification system. I know that people have always, as soon as that comes up, you hear a groan and a grunt and God knows what else. But I mean, I know that
cussing.
Maybe some cussing. I know that other esports do that. They request an identification of some sort. So even if it's just something simple, just to make sure that your player is who you are. I know a lot of people use fake names, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, as long as that name is associated with somebody that's real, that's all that matters. And I think once you get that, I think, a lot of the frustrations and stuff that people had about this whole Chicago thing would go away. There's one more that I had, but I don't have my imaginary CVS receipt, so I can't tell you what it was. If you would have asked me when I left, I would have had a lot more, but those are kind of,
we probably talked about it when you left.
We probably did. But with that, I think those are two things that I wouldn't mind seeing. And just maybe some other things, but they would have to pop in my head as we along with it.
Well, those would be some pretty seismic changes.
Yeah, true. They'd be pretty drastic.
They would ripple across the landscape.
I think the first one is way more obtainable than the second one. Being able to, even if you signed a guy at a, if he's a gold, you sign him 2 levels below at a bronze or something, or whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
something.
Because even like for example in real life football, I mean Dak Prescott goes down with one of the worst ankle injuries I've seen in a while, and then you bring in Gilbert from Texas University. He's not the guy that's just going to immediately replace. He's a third string, granted, but you want to bring in a guy that's not going to be that great. If you do lose a player like that, then you should take a hit a little bit. But I understand the rule of why they did it back years ago.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that, and I just think that's a rule that has outlived its purpose.
Yeah, and I think the owners, there's a lot of owners I think that see it that way too. And the owners, I think that when they look at the situation, I think they'll change that rule, but it's only time will tell with that one.
Right. There's a couple of owners, and I'm not because they're not breaking any rules. There are definitely a couple of owners that they manipulate it every year. They use it every year. They've got a guy. Week 2, they drop him. They sign somebody. They never have to worry about having a low-value linebacker, for example, at that spot because they just recycle them every year. But yeah,
one of those owners announced he's going to sell his team. So
what's that?
One of the owners you're probably talking about is selling his team now.
Really?
No, what I'm saying, yeah, because that was a Chicago move, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't even thinking about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's right. And again, that particular move, not illegal.
No, not illegal. No.
I mean, Denver has done it 2 years in a row. Has done it 2 years in a row. I don't remember anyone else off my head. They're not breaking any rules. But I'd like to see that rule.
Oh yeah, because the only reason Chicago sticks out is just because for the fact that it always seemed like every year they replaced a wide receiver.
Right.
Somebody like that. It's at least the one I always remember. I didn't even know Denver did it, in all honesty. I couldn't tell you about that one. The only one I just remember sticking out of my head was Chicago, and I think it was like Corey Carter, I think, was one that always seemed like he was gone every year. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
And then the last 2 years, we've brought his replacement along.
Yeah, I think you guys signed a replacement.
So thank you, Chicago.
There you go.
Denver has a linebacker. I think his name's Echo Love or something like that. And they did it with Mel Davis last year.
That's right. You're right. I do remember that.
But once again, Jeremy, don't come after me. It's not illegal.
Exactly. It's not a rule that's been broke at all. So that you can't say anything about it. You could just kind of frown it.
Yeah.
But that's about it. But yes, I agree with you. I hope that is a rule that changes next season, or even that, or take value away from that position. I mean, that's fine too. However it has to be done. But being able to just clone somebody in that place that's a little rough.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about like mid-season, like take one of our. If we had lost Adam Williams for whatever reason, that would have. And of course, with the rule in place, we would have just replaced Adam Williams with a clone. But in real life, that doesn't count.
Yeah, if you guys would have lost Adam Williams in real life, you guys wouldn't have made the playoffs probably.
No, I mean,
because he was pretty big for you guys.
Yeah, it was. I just I got to tell you, I felt a feeling on the back of my playoff. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I could have overcome it, but you're probably right. You bailed me out a couple of times.
There you go.
How about roster expansion? How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I know that with two new teams that are going to be coming in next season, that just makes even more spaces. Depending on how many we have in the minors, I'm not too sure. I know that it's the numbers are down from last season, which is understandable. COVID's kind of not. I mean, COVID's a thing, but not as much as it was then.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the roster expand by maybe one, maybe just one spot, maybe two at the most. I don't know. Or you just keep it the same. I mean, as long as you don't go down, I think I'm fine with whatever they choose.
Yeah, I think I'd be happy to sit where it is. I would like to see because of a move we're making. I would love to see it by one, and I could be happy with two. But more than that, I mean, because here's the thing: I like teams having to make decisions about what they do.
Exactly.
Right? About how they build a team. We went with a full front seven. We had 4 contract DBs.
Yep.
It was kind of a challenge, right? But I like that. I love that. Ultimately, the way we ended up playing, I feel like we were either shortchanging our third linebacker, Freddie Trammell, or we were putting one of our defensive linemen on the bench, and I didn't like doing that.
And that's the fun thing about it. Having the 20 right now, you do have to make roster decisions. Do you go with that fourth linebacker? Do you try to run a 2 tight end set and get a second tight end? Do you draft an offensive lineman? Because if you take an offensive lineman, not an owner offensive lineman, but an actual offensive lineman, then that takes up roster spots. Like Florida, for example, they have a punter, right? So, that takes up a roster spot. If you expand it to where it's like 23, 24 guys, all those decisions you have to make are gone because I got plenty of spots. No big deal.
Yeah.
Kind of like us. I mean, we have a halfback and a fullback. So it's kind of like, okay, even though Iggy Swift was used actually quite a bit more, I think, than a lot of other fullbacks, that's another roster spot that if you change the scheme, then okay, what do you do with that fullback position? So, that's why I said maybe one. I'd be perfectly fine if they came out and said, "Hey, look, we're going to go to 21 this season." I'd be like, "Sweet, that's fantastic." And then you have a little bit of wiggle room. Going, okay, we're going to do 24, and I think it's a little too much.
I do too. I think. Hey, 22 might be too much, but 22 is kind of a magic number.
Yeah, 22 would be like the ultimate max for me.
I think about that, we've got a real problem. Not a problem. That's not the right way to put it. But I think we're in agreement.
Yeah, we're in agreement.
How about team expansion? It looks like we're probably getting 2 teams. How do you feel about that?
I think it's pretty good. You know, from the teams that I've seen, like the ideas that people have, I think there's going to be some really nice franchises. I have one that's probably I think is a lock. But you know, that second spot to me is kind of wide open. Now you kind of have that third spot because they're putting Chicago up in the expansion process. So you know, now it's kind of like, okay, you know, who could grab that second or third spot? But like I said, I think there's one for me that's for sure locked in my mind, but which I think is Los Angeles. I think with Ramen and Rochelle Colson's team, I think that they're just going to grab that team. I think they'll probably have a pretty good, you know, idea and package and everything to present to the league. The other teams, I think they're
a couple of vets.
Yeah, there are a couple of vets. Plus, they're both league staff. They do a lot for the league behind the scenes that a lot of people probably don't realize. So, I think for sure they'll be getting their own franchise in my mind. Not just because of that fact, but also because they're just two good people. You know, they're
right.
You know, they're with good standing within the SFL. I think that a lot of people love talking to them people. You know, I enjoy talking to Rochelle. I enjoy talking to Tom when I can, and you know, I wish them the best of luck if they do get a franchise. And there's some other people too. You know, like Optimus Klein, I think is up for a spot as well. Ethan Kai is up for a spot as well. There's some other guys too, but that's where the real dogfight I think begins. Is the 2 and 3 spot for those.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's some great people out there that are going to miss out. Like you said, I mean, you named 2 of them right there that could very well miss out.
And they could, you know, depending on who comes in, because like last season when we expanded, you know, Bavette getting his team, I didn't see that coming just because I didn't know he was putting one in. But from what I've heard, he's doing a really good job over there and actually, you know, building up something pretty nice. So, but you know, there could always be that dark horse. You never know. I am not putting in for a franchise, so just FYI. I know that back I had talked about it. I was going to do it at one point, but you know, I'm not going to put one in. The Indianapolis Racers will stay down. I already had the color, and I think I showed you before, but I think so. Yeah, I look good and everything ready to go. So, but no, you know, I wish nothing but the best of luck for these people. I think I know who will probably get that second spot if I had to guess, but you know, it's like I said, it's going to be a dogfight for that last spot for sure.
Yeah, when I first came in, I had maybe not Portland. Portland doesn't deserve it, but Oregon does. But I think Jacob's got that taken care of. And truth be told, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm where I want to be coaching. That's it.
And that's kind of where I when I did my step back and I left the league and I kind of did a reevaluation of everything. You know, when I came in, I mean, I had owner aspirations. I was talking to TJ about it all the time. I'd reach out to like Eddie and you know, some few other people that, you know, I would talk to. I think Charles I may have talked to about at one point, but you know, just trying to get an understanding of what an owner does and whatnot. But then once I took that step back and kind of reevaluated everything, I was like, you know what, I don't think an owner is right for me. I would love to just, you know, where I am now, you know, being in London, having the opportunity to run the franchise but not be the owner of it. And that's exactly what I wanted, and that's exactly what I got. So I'm very happy with where I'm at on that part of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's important. That is important. Well, I want to give you a chance. Is there anything that I didn't like to?
No, I think we covered a lot of things. You know, I just wanted to get out the word about, you know, the changes and stuff that we're trying to do in London, you know, because I don't want people to think that, oh, you know, London's going to probably go 2-10 next season. You know, and just writing us. I mean, that's fine if you want to write us off. I really don't care. That just means when we come to town, I'll just, you know, we'll just take the picture from you. No big deal. But
yeah, it doesn't matter what they think.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what they think, in all honesty. But you know, there are people out there that will say whatever. But at the end of the day, what we're going to be building in London is something that all SFL people will be happy to see. Because I know there's quite a few people that want to see London succeed, and those are people that are not even in the organization. So, you always want to see a good story, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we're going to provide. Not only are we changing the culture and changing the product on the field, but we're also changing the product off the field. We want to have people that will not only represent London Knights with respect, but we'll also have people that represent the SFL with respect. And that's the key, is getting those guys that will come in and buy into what we are, drink the Kool-Aid, basically, as you want to say. So, like I said, I'm excited for it. I'm ready to go. I know that, we're still in the playoffs, and I like, want to talk to free agents and bring people in and get them signed and get them, get draft picks going and everything else. But I got to take a step back. Got to enjoy the playoffs this weekend.
Right.
Who are you looking for to win these games this weekend?
Okay, so what do we got? I think.
So we have. Let's see if I can. There it is. So you got Mexico City at Baltimore on Saturday.
I got to pick Baltimore on that one. I just think at home.
I mean, just because they're my old franchise, I got to pick them too. I mean,
Right.
I admire what Mexico City has done this season, because really, I think the draft they had and kind of the questions that we all had talked about before, you can't count him out. You can't count out Mexico City in that situation. So kudos to them for their season, and they've done a fantastic job. But I think this is the end of the line for the Aztecs. I think Baltimore takes it.
I think so. Yeah.
And then you have Florida at Denver. I already know where you're going with this. That's a tough game to call, actually. But
well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm going to root against Florida all the time now. But yeah, of course, you're talking about a couple of solid coaches. I think Florida wins that one. I think they get that big favorite.
See it. Yeah, I mean, with the way Denver's played, with Vega back coaching, and
wait, did I say Florida?
You did say Florida.
Yeah, I misspoke. I think Denver wins that. I feel like they have the advantage. I think they can do all the things that give Florida problems.
Yeah, I agree. I think. Listen, I was one of the people at the beginning of the year, when I was on Access Live and I was talking about all them games, and I wrote Florida off. I'll admit that. But they proved me wrong. I mean, I think, what was it? They lost their first 3 or 4 games.
Something like that, yeah.
And then they just came out like fire. They've been playing fantastic. But kind of like I said about Mexico City, I think it's kind of the end of the line. I think Vega, with the team that they've been playing and how they've been playing this season, I think that they take that win. So then you got Jacksonville at Sioux Falls, which I think will be a very interesting game on Sunday.
That to me is a very interesting game. The thing with Sioux Falls, I mean, everybody knows I love Sioux Falls. I love the way they play the game. I'll say the same thing that I've said about Sioux Falls in the past. If you can make them multi-dimensional, you've got a chance.
Yeah.
It's not that they can't throw the ball. They can. They just don't. And so if you take them out of that position and give yourself a chance to get maybe more turnovers than you would, if they can just pound the rock 35 times, then it's over. And so I think that's what it comes down to. Now, Jacksonville has their defense is not bad. And they certainly got the experience. Going to Sioux Falls, I'm going to pick Sioux Falls. But that one wouldn't surprise me. That to me is a pick-up game.
I agree. That's what I was getting ready to say. Is I think, to me, it's a pickup game because, Jacksonville. I think if Christensen can limit the interceptions, I think they win this game. To be honest, but I would not. I'm going to pick Jacksonville, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sioux Falls wins. So that'd be my guess. And then the last one, which I'm actually really excited to watch, is Vancouver in Louisiana.
Should be a good game.
That's going to be a good game. My feeling is and people know. Okay, I always talk up the Revolution. Yes, I'm buddy with Johnny. yes, all them guys in Louisiana are fantastic.
Right.
But here's the thing: is these guys are hungry, and with what they've done so far since Gerald has been suspended, it's like as if he's never left. They've just played fantastic, and that's a credit to the coaching staff and our Mike Twinscrew, especially being one of those guys. Kudos to him. I mean, he's done a terrific job. But I think in the end, I know Vancouver's tough as well, and they have the players that they have. And if Tom Peppers throws 5 interceptions, this game won't even be close, I think. So,
right,
Pickler being one of the better quarterbacks in the SFL, I think one of the best quarterbacks in the SFL, even just going off of QBR and having top 5 least interceptions in the league. He controls the ball. He doesn't throw bad passes. So to me, like I said, I may be a little biased on it, but for me, it's Louisiana.
Right. Well, and I'm not going to root against it because that's my own team. But your point about the turnovers is a key one because, like we've been saying, volume offense, and Vancouver's not going to get extra opportunities from Louisiana. They're not going to turn the ball over that much. And so Vancouver can't improve them either. And so that's why it favors Louisiana. That type of a matchup favors Louisiana. Now, Vancouver gets on one of those rolls they do that we did last season. We have those, you just and this thing's going to break. Oh, there it goes. Pseudo Joe, 90 yards or whatever. This year it's Robert Redford, but Killian and everybody is still there, and Vancouver gets on one of those goals and doesn't turn it over. Now,
if Peppers can control it and maybe throw just one pick, then it's going to be a close ball game for sure. It's going to be a great ball game to watch. But it always seems like Peppers throws at least 2 or 3. Just hopefully it doesn't cost him in the end. So in my mind, I got to go Louisiana. But other than that, man, I think we covered everything, man.
I think so. I think we've done well. And unlike with Slant and Ross, we've kept it under 3 hours.
There you go.
I actually broke up the show with them. We broke it up into 4 parts.
Oh, no, nice.
I mean, we covered a lot. We did a top 10 list.
Oh, yeah.
Like so, I mean, it was 4 hours or 4 shows with the material, but still.
No, I try to help you out a little bit. I'll keep it to an hour.
Hey, as long as we cover the topics, I don't care how long.
Exactly. That's right.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap this up. I want to, like I've said before, if you like this stuff, please consider liking and subscribing if you're watching this on YouTube. The Epic eSports. Cam does a lot of work for me, and they've got a lot of good stuff. We've got a lot of stuff coming out. Sometimes it's hard to get the word out on this. So I would appreciate that a lot. I'm sure Epic eSports would appreciate it. Chad, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me, man. It was fun. I hope to come on again. We'll chat some more SFL.
Definitely. We will definitely do that. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. Good luck and God bless.
You've been listening to the Coach's Corner podcast with Coach Brian Craven, an Epic Esports Radio Network exclusive. If you enjoyed today's show, tell a friend. Make sure never to miss an episode by subscribing to Epic Esports on YouTube or downloading on Spotify. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and be sure to enable all notifications so you never miss our newest content. Thank you for listening.